Hello everyone, this is the Paladin speaking. Today, we're looking at 5 upcoming games that you should definitely look forward to. Games that are unapologetically violent, gritty, and consequence heavy. Games where debt grows while you sleep, where one wrong step against a trained swordsman means death, where revenge isn't a power fantasy, it's a burden. These are games for people who want to earn their victories. Let's get into it. First up is a game that answers the question, what if Grand Theft Auto actually had consequences? Samson, a Tindleston story, comes from Liquid Swords, a studio founded by Christopher Sundberg, the man who created Just Cause. And I need you to understand how insane that pivot is. This is the guy who gave us grappling hooks, unlimited ammo, and exploding cows. Now he's making a game where standing still makes everything worse. You are Samson McRae. You've returned to Tindleston, a fictional 1990s city that, quote, built you hard and never forgave you. Your family is shattered. Your sister is being held as collateral by dangerous people, and you are drowning in a debt that grows by the hour. This isn't backstory flavor text, this is the core loop. Here's what sets Samson apart from every other open-world crime game you've played. Every single morning in the game, you wake up to a daily quota, a number you must hit or things get worse. The interest compounds, the collectors get more aggressive, the pressure intensifies. This isn't a fail state, this is the game. Think about how different that makes your decisions. In GTA, you rob a bank because it's Tuesday and you're bored. In Samson, you rob that bank because you have to, because your sister's life depends on it, because the clock is ticking and every job burns from a limited pool of action points. Liquid Swords is calling this a drive a brawler. The combat is grounded, physical, and dangerous. You're not a super soldier. You're a man who learned violence before he learned mercy. There's a 25+ upgrade skill tree, but here's the key. Progression is designed to be fun from the start, not just at endgame. Cars aren't set dressing. They're blunt instruments. You'll ram through police blockades, drift through industrial wastelands, and outthink anyone who chases you in vehicles held together by scrap metal and stubbornness. The developers confirmed that Tindleston tracks your decisions. Faces, factions, and entire streets shift based on your actions. The police don't just spawn and forget, they escalate. They set up roadblocks. They bring helicopters. Law enforcement is something to respect. Chases escalate, pressure builds, and mistakes matter. The goal is tension, not spectacle for its own sake. From the 1990s streets of Tindleston to the mud and blood of the Holy Roman Empire, Knight's Path is what happens when you take the realism of Kingdom Come Deliverance, the intensity of a Souls-like, and strip away all the magic. No chosen one prophecies, no glowing swords, just steel, skill, and survival. And here's the kicker. It's being made by essentially 2 people. That's not a marketing spin, that's the reality. A passion project built on the premise that the medieval combat games have been lying to you. You play as Elric, and I need to be crystal clear about who Elric is at the start of this game. He has 0 combat experience. You're not a legendary knight. You're not secretly the son of anyone important. You're a nobody from a disgraced family who picked up a sword in a world where trained soldiers will kill you in 3 moves if you haven't trained with a master first. The combat in Knight's Path is built on actual historical European martial arts. The developers worked with a real advisor to ensure authentic stances, proper weight distribution, and historically accurate techniques. There are no flashy dodge rolls, no iframes that let you phase through sword swings. Every strike, parry, counter, and step is intentional and meaningful. You win through timing, positioning, and reading your opponent, not through button mashing. And here's what makes this different from every other action RPG. In most games, you level up, and your character magically gets better. In Knight's Path, you have to actually train. You seek out swordmasters, you practice techniques. Your progression is tied to your mastery of the mechanics, not a stat sheet. The developers describe it like this. You begin as someone who has never truly held a sword, and it shows in how Elric moves. He is slow, unsteady, and inefficient. Through practice, failure, and guidance from skilled teachers, his technique gradually improves. Your animations change, your stances evolve. Mastery is earned, not given. And here's the best part. You can try it right now. Knight's Path, the tournament, is a free concept demo on Steam. It's 2 to 3 hours long. and it currently sits at 79% positive reviews from over 600 players. That's a solid foundation. Acts of Blood premiered on the main stage of Summer Game Fest 2025. That's the biggest gaming showcase outside of E3's Corps, and it was introduced by Jeff Keighley himself as a game made by one person from Bandung, Indonesia. His name is Fajrul. He started this project in January 2024 because, and I love this, he wanted to recapture the creative freedom he lost while working at a game studio. He brought on 9 friends to help, and together they built something that stood toe-to-toe with AAA announcements. You play as Hendra, a law student in a dystopian version of Bandung, Indonesia. His family was slaughtered by his father's business rival. When the corrupt legal system protects the killers, Hendra makes a choice. He drops the law books. He picks up the bat. What follows is a hunt through a neon-soaked, rain-drenched city, tracking down the people responsible for destroying his life, one broken bone at a time. If you've seen The Raid or The Night Comes for Us, you know Indonesian martial arts don't play around. Acts of Blood is built as a tribute to those films. The game's animator, David, actually attended a Silat workshop in Bali, led by Yayan Ruhian, one of the actors and stunt coordinators from The Raid. They're not just referencing these films, they're studying under the masters. The combat system blends Sleeping Dog's strike counter finisher mechanics with Sifu's complexity. The developers describe it as accessible for casual players while offering depth for those who want to master devastating combo strings. Like Sifu, the environment is your weapon, but Acts of Blood goes further. This isn't about grabbing a bottle from a bar. You're smashing through levels, using architecture to set up ambushes, and performing finishers that would make John Wick wins. Acts of Blood is one Indonesian indie game that made it to Summer Game Fest. But how many others are out there making incredible things that we'll never hear about because the Western gaming media doesn't cover them? This game represents something bigger than itself. It's proof that world-class talent exists everywhere, and the industry needs to pay attention. Hendra isn't a superhero. He's not making wisecracks while he fights. He's fueled by pure, focused rage, and the game reflects that in every punch. This is an emotionally charged revenge tale about a man who has lost everything and has nothing left to lose. That's not a power fantasy. That's a tragedy you're playing through. Blackwood isn't about being the biggest, baddest fighter. It's about duality, about the quiet horror of living two completely separate lives and watching the walls between them crack. Imagine you run a DVD store. Yes, a DVD store. We're in 2012 New York, before streaming fully killed the format. By day, you deal with annoying customers, manage inventory, and try to maintain the last fragments of a normal human life. By night, you hunt the city's most dangerous man. You play as Anton Blackwood, a contract killer trying desperately to hold on to his humanity. He runs this little DVD store in Brooklyn. There's a woman who works there who sees a different side of him, the gentler side he rarely shows anyone. But when the shutters close and the streets go quiet, Anton descends into his basement. And what's in that basement isn't movies. This is the gameplay hook. You actually manage the DVD store. You interact with customers, you decorate your apartment, you try to live a normal life, and then you go kill people. The developers describe this as a slow burn character study. The quiet moments with the woman in the store remind Anton, and you, the player, that even in a world of darkness, glimpses of humanity endure. But here's what makes it haunting. You know what you do at night. Every friendly conversation during the day is underscored by the violence you committed hours before. Blackwood might be the first game that truly explores what it would actually feel like to be John Wick. Not the action. We've seen 100 games replicate John Wick action. I mean the isolation, the loneliness, the psychological weight of being a killer who desperately wants to stop but can't. John Wick looks cool in the movies, but actually being him, living that double life, that's horror, not fantasy. Combat is grounded but stylish. Third-person cover mechanics, fluid movement with dives, rolls, and slides. Over 30 unique weapons. But the signature mechanic is contextual takedowns, using everything from sewer grates to suppressed pistols to end encounters with precision. Every fight feels choreographed. like Anton is living out his favorite crime thrillers. There's even an original soundtrack performed by the studio's in-house band that shifts dynamically based on story and combat intensity. Here's what the developers are teasing. Anton thinks he's the protagonist in his story, but someone is always watching, directing from the shadows. This isn't just a Hitman Does Missions game. There's a conspiracy. There are flawed human characters navigating a city full of secrets. Every ad, every tattoo, every poster tells a story. Atrito M7 Productions is based in Bangladesh and previously made 0 Hour, a tactical shooter with a dedicated following. Blackwood represents their leap into narrative-driven single-player gaming, and the footage so far suggests they're nailing the cinematic tone. When Toshihiro Nagoshi left Sega in 2021 after 32 years after creating the entire Yakuza franchise, everyone wondered, what's next? Now we know. Gang of Dragon debuted at the Game Awards 2025, and it immediately broke the internet. Because this isn't just another Yakuza clone, this is Nagoshi Unchained. No corporate oversight, no need to fit into an existing franchise, just pure creative vision. And he's starring the one man on Earth who might be more intimidating than Kazuma Kiryu. If you don't know Ma Dong-seok, you've been missing out. This is the South Korean and American actor who punched zombies to death in Train to Busan, who became a cultural icon in Korea for playing characters that are equal parts terrifying and lovable. He's not just voice acting in Gang of Dragon, he's the protagonist, Shin Ji-seong, a high-ranking member of a Korean crime syndicate operating in Tokyo's Kabukicho district. Gang of Dragon is set in Kabukicho, one of Japan's largest entertainment and red light districts. You play as Shin Ji-seong, a Korean gangster navigating the underworld conflicts of Tokyo while forging intense human connections that force him to confront his own sense of purpose. This is a cross-cultural crime drama, Korean syndicates operating on Japanese soil, the politics, the hierarchies, the tensions, all rendered with Nagoshi's signature attention to human drama. You know how in Yakuza games, Kiryu is strong, but the combat has a certain playfulness to it? The goofy heat actions, the comedy moments. Gang of Dragon is betting on a different approach. Overwhelming physical power played straight. Ma Dong-seok's fighting style in films is all about being a human wall. Short, devastating strikes that end fights in seconds. Gang of Dragon translates that into gameplay, high-impact combat where you're not dancing around enemies, you're walking through them. There are also swords, firearms, and vehicle sequences, but the core identity is that presence. You're not just a fighter, you're a force of nature. Nagoshi has always been obsessed with authentic urban environments. His Yakuza games made Kamurocho feel like a real place you could walk through. Gang of Dragon is doing the same with Shinjuku, rendered with hyper-realistic detail, including a 24-hour cycle where the social hierarchies of the streets change between day and night. Nagoshi could have made Yakuza 9. He could have stayed safe, stayed comfortable, kept making what worked. Instead, at 60 years old, he started a new studio, partnered with NetEase, and spent 4 years building something entirely new. For those worried about NetEase involvement, Nagoshi addressed this directly when the studio formed. He promised he wouldn't pivot to mobile games. He promised to make premium, worldwide release titles. Gang of Dragon is the proof. This is a AAA cinematic action game. No free-to-play hooks, no live service nonsense, just Nagoshi doing what Nagoshi does best. So, where does this leave us? 5 games, 5 visions of what gritty actually means. Samson, where every day costs you and standing still makes everything worse. Knight's Path, where your sword skill is only as good as your actual sword skill. Acts of Blood, where revenge isn't empowering, it's all-consuming. Blackwood, where the double life isn't fantasy, it's psychological torture. Gang of Dragon, where physical presence isn't about being loud, it's about being undeniable. 5 games that will grow some hair on your chest. Alright, before you go, 3 things. 1. Drop a comment with which game you're most excited for. 2. If you've got recommendations for games that fit this vibe, grounded, consequence-heavy, earned victories, share them. Let's build a community list for a future video. 3. Subscribe if you haven't. Drop a like if you enjoyed. and share it if you are looking forward to any of them. It also helps the channel. So that was the list. This is the Paladin signing off, and I will see you next time.